Welcome back, ecosystem builders. You've become detectives of your own experience and builders of solution sharing communities. And now what we're going to do this week is innovate and expand an evolutionary step of innovation collaboration. So here's what I've discovered. The biggest innovations and breakthroughs don't happen when we solve problems. It's when we collaborate others to find solutions. When we start building in these different perspectives, really leaning on that collective unconscious that Carl Jung discovered, and I've got some articles, so I'm going to put links in the worksheet so that you can connect with it. What we find is that we are pulling from a greater source beyond ourselves, beyond our value, beyond our capability. So think about it like we're foraging through the forest. When you forage alone, you're only looking for one or two things. But as a group, when we forage together, we're looking for lots of things. We're depending on others to be able to find some mushroom that we may not be good at identifying. And other people to be able to say, hey, did you see this? There's a huge area here, a huge patch where we can gather a lot very quickly. And that collaboration is what we're gonna lean on this week. So stay tuned, get ready. We are here to forage through the forest and build a community of wellness that will lead to our own individual success through building capacity, value, and motivation. Taking this journey, and we're taking about a 2-month journey across the West Coast and going actually through the Panama Canal. We'll be heading back to Miami next week. And so as I've been on this journey, as I've said before, traveling really gives me insight. And next month, we're going to look at new experiences and how it can help us gain gratitude and acceptance and new perspectives. But for now, we're going to look at a lesson learned that I've experienced on this journey through the understanding of what foraging is. I kind of know what foraging is. Pretty high confidence in my capacity, I should say. What a funny Freudian slip. I do feel like I have a pretty high capacity when it comes to nature. I love it, I live in it. But when I actually went out into the jungle this last weekend to meet with somebody who is an expert at foraging, I realized how little I actually knew. The forager sees the forest differently. It doesn't see it as just this lackadaisical walk where it kind of bumps into things. It sees purpose and intention in everything that they do. Every rock could hold something that would be valuable for our nutrition to fuel us as we continue through the forest. Every little meadow has an opportunity to nourish us and something greater than the seeds we pick up or the flowers that we pick or the sights we take on. So what changed in this hike was not the forest. It was the perspective that I took on when I saw an expert actually interacting in something that I did every day. And that's what we're going to do this week, is look at shifting that perspective and seeing how we can gain from the collaborative to really enhance our experience and realize how intentional we can be and how much life has to serve us. And this is exactly what happens in innovation collaboration. When you partner with someone who has different knowledge, different ways of seeing problems, different approaches to solutions, you don't just get their expertise added to yours. You develop new vision together. You start noticing possibilities that were invisible when you were working alone. So let's explore the 4 elements of successful foraging and this innovation collaboration. Element 1 is complementary knowledge. In foraging, one person might know medicinal plants while another knows edible ones. In collaboration, one person might excel at systems thinking while another brings creative experimentation. The magic happens in the overlap and the exchange. Number 2, or element 2, the shared safety practices. Experienced foragers never let each other eat something unidentified. Good collaborators create safety for risk-taking, honest feedback, and creative failure. They watch each other's blind spots. Element 3 is resource sharing. Foragers share tools, containers, and knowledge freely because everyone benefits when the group finds more resources. Collaborators share connections, insights, and credit because collective success amplifies individual success. Element 4, sustainable harvesting. Good foragers take only what they need and ensure the resources can regenerate. Thoughtful collaborators work at a pace that energizes rather than depletes, and they create systems that continue producing value over time. And so what the forest is teaching us is that an rich ecosystem is not with one species. It's with a collaboration of species where different species support each other's own growth. And this week, you're going to create your own rich ecosystem of collaborative innovation. Our first step is to go and understand our readiness for collaboration. Where are we on our ability to connect with others? And every place is going to be different, and that's okay. Remember that 2 weeks ago we talked about the trees and the various trees, and everyone has their own growth journey. But find where you can find places and readiness for your collaboration. And we're going to do a quiz in the worksheet, so make sure you go take a look. And so I wanted to give a personal story as we are digesting information this week and we're using the worksheet to really implement our knowledge. And, you know, this journey has been kind of a whirlwind for me. As I said, 4 books in 1 year was published. And with publishing those books, I had ideas about what I wanted to do and how I wanted to share all this knowledge that I was gaining and all this growth that I was experiencing for myself. I wanted to share it with others. And so as I looked to others and started hiring staff and collaborating with staff, I actually found that I had more joy in my work. I felt like I had more purpose. I felt like I could actually share more of my work because I was taking away the tasks that was taking away from me and my business, and I was able to start delegating them. But when I started to hear my staff members and give them ownership of their parts of the business, what I got was a lot of feedback that we were able to collaborate and join together. And it's just been such a delight. I am so grateful for my staff. I'm so grateful for Emma, who is starting her own coaching process and being able to coach using our neuroscience backed framework. And it's because we've been able to have these open conversations. I can share with her my thoughts that can be a little nerdy and analytical. I'm not going to lie to you. I love analyzing behavior. And as she shares it back with me of, well, what I'm hearing you say is, and she starts to put the pieces together, it helps me to better share with her kind of my thoughts. And yes, that's exactly it. And I'm being seen and heard and people understand me. And oh, I love where you're going with that. I was actually thinking about this, but you've got it. Like, this is exactly what we want to build on. Let's explore it this week. And that collaboration is what I hope we can all gain out of this week as we start to find who our partners is. And that can be romantic, that can be professional, that can be friendship. It doesn't matter. It matters that you figure out where you want to start and you put intention and investment in that place. So let's look at this finding and creating collaborative partnerships. My 3-book series actually goes through all of this. We find what success is and we make decisions based on our values, and we learn all the stressors in our lives that prevent us from success. Part 2 is all about emotional resilience. We're really learning our side of the street and how we can engage and regulate our emotions so we can find that leadership presence. And part 3 is all about interpersonal effectiveness. And when we can be present with ourselves, be able to take on the leadership qualities, now we can effectively interact with each other to maximize on how to have both of us really become successful. And in that space, we're going to do, in the worksheet, we're going to kind of go through those processes so you can start checklisting kind of your readiness, meeting your readiness with your action plan, and start creating intention for collaboration. So I want to give you some collaborative partnership ideas, and I really want to keep leaning on the Jungian collective unconscious. I really go through the perceived realities and Jungian archetypes in leadership in part 2 and part 3 of my books, and it's so important. It's really coming out this week. So when you know your strengths and your archetypes, then you're going to know how to most effectively collaborate with others. And we're going to go through some ideas of how to do that and bring in your archetype. So there's going to be a link in the worksheet. Make sure you find out your archetype and what your hybrids are so you know what to pull from and where your shadows and your light aspects are. So the skill swap, I'll help you with X for 2 hours, and then you can help me with Y for 2 hours. An example is organization help in exchange for creative brainstorming support. The challenge partner. Let's each tackle a problem we've been avoiding and support each other through it. That vulnerability and accountability. So an example is one person declutters their space while another organizes their finance. Both provide encouragement and accountability. So one of our first biggest challenge when it comes to collaboration is knowing how to propose a collaboration. So let's do that right now. And I've actually done a lot of community building in my practice. When I was the subject mental health expert for the state of Florida, my job was literally getting people who work for state government to do extra tasks without any kind of money or compensation. So I had to convince them that I was so passionate about affecting change in the mental health system that they wanted to buy in because it would help them in some of their jadedness and see that they could actually do something about it. And so they were investing in me as much as they were investing in the system, providing the resources from their program to whatever grant that I was running. And that's a hard thing to do, but I'm giving you that example because we can do it. Because when we are confident, when we are making decisions based on our values, I'm telling you, all you will make are value-based decisions. And so the first thing we have to do is find a problem and listen to other people's to find what their problem is. We know what our problem is. We know what our value is. We know what we want to solve. So instead of saying, this is what I need, start listening with intention. Hear people, ask questions, get them to offer you what their problem is so that you can offer them the solution of, let's work on it together. And as we do this, what we find is people start investing in us as we invest in them. And as we share, we're vulnerable. When we share and are vulnerable, then people start to trust us more. And then we add in the extra piece of accountability. And now we're starting to really see a foundation built of people investing us we're investing in them, and now we have a common problem. Remember the video of boundaries build relationship. This is that space I am talking about. So whether it's a couple and a marriage or a romantic relationship, it's two friends, it's a boss and a coworker, or a boss and a subordinate, two coworkers, two friends, it doesn't matter. It matters that you show up and that you intentionally create the space. And as you intentionally create the space, you start to get curious. Tell me about kind of what you do when this problem comes up. Oh, that's interesting because this is what I do. And you start to build a conversation when you let go of the ego of I know best, and you're just present with an intention to be curious and really understand the process. You start to see really beautiful things bloom. And so here's what happens when you move from solo problem solving to innovation collaboration. You get individual level breakthroughs. You solve problems you've been stuck on for months or years. You develop new approaches that combine the best of different methods. You build confidence in areas you previously felt inadequate. You accelerate your learning by seeing through someone else's expertise. And relationship level breakthroughs are you're creating a deeper connection based on mutual growth and support. You develop trust through shared risk-taking and vulnerable problem solving. You build a reputation as someone who elevates others while solving your own challenges. And you experience the satisfaction of contributing meaningfully to someone else's breakthrough. And this week is all about discovering that your biggest breakthroughs are waiting in the intersection between your capabilities and someone else's completely different strengths. You've spent 2 weeks building your ecosystem and learning from others' approaches. Now you're ready. So go and co-create solutions that transcend what any individual could develop alone. The forest doesn't compete for resources. It collaborates to create abundance. Trees share nutrients from their root networks. Different species create microclimates that benefit everyone. And the whole ecosystem becomes more resilient through interdependence. As we set our mission for week 3, and we start walking through the forest and starting to see that forest between the trees, I want you to think about who your partnership is. And I want you to consider how we just released our couples masterclass. And although we're going to talk more about romantic relationships in the couples masterclass, what you'll find is this is a foundation of knowledge we all need to collaborate with one another. We learn the foundational principles of understanding kind of why we do the things we do and what's important when it comes to honoring our space and other people's space. And then we start to look at this idea of what a dynamic is, this interaction between two people, and how owning our side of the street and learning what that is and how it applies to the dynamic is how you break through any kind of interaction distress that you may have, and how you maximize on building lifelong collaborations. So join me, click on the link in the worksheet, and you can learn more on taking the next step through building collaborations with others through our couples masterclass. There's going to be a whole community on there so that you can get perspectives from others, you can see questions being answered, and you can start joining in on understanding how to maximize, whether it's in your relationship or interactions with others, or how to find success through building collaborations on shared or similar goals of being successful. That internal value that we keep seeking so that we're not getting trapped in bondage of external validation.